Hello students, in this video I am going to discuss about the science syllabus that you have to follow for 2022 board exam. In physics chapter 1, the topics which are included are light as invisible energy, nature of light, reflection of light, position of the image formed by a plane mirror, spherical mirrors and their technology, sign conventions for reflection by spherical mirrors, refraction of light, refraction by spherical lenses, power of a lens, and new Cartesian sign convention for lenses. And you are to practice numerical problems from this chapter also. In chapter 2, that is human eye and the colorful world, human eye, that means the description of the human eye, functions of all the parts, accommodation of the eye, defects of vision and their correction, advantages of having two eyes. This was not there in the last year syllabus, but this year you have to study this. Refraction of light through an equilateral prism, dispersion of white light by a glass prism, atmospheric refraction and scattering of light. In last year's syllabus, this part, scattering of light, it was not there, but this year you have to study this. Now if you see the chapter 3, that is electricity, here also everything you have to study, and the topics are electric charges and their properties, conductors and insulators, flow of electric charges, electric current, electric potential, electric circuit, resistance of a conductor or electric resistance, series and parallel circuits, and here these proofs are also required, Ohm's law, expression for resistances in series, expression for resistances in parallel, and heating effects of electric current. This heating effect of electric current, it was not there in last year's syllabus, but this year you have to study this. In case of magnetic effects of electric current, the topics are magnetic field and field lines, solenoid, force on a current carrying conductor in a magnetic field, electromagnetic induction, and domestic electric circuits. So that means in physics part, whatever is there in your textbook, everything you have to study, and mainly you are to practice the numericals from chapter 1 and 3, that is light and electricity. Now in chemistry, if you see the first part, that is chemical reactions, here also everything you have to study, introduction, chemical equation, types of chemical reactions, effects of oxidation reactions in everyday life, and you have to remember how to balance, because sometimes they used to give the questions where you have to balance the equations. In case of acid, bases and salts, it is introduction, understanding the chemical properties of acids and bases, what do all acids and all bases have in common, how strong are acids and base solutions, and more about salts. More about salts, this baking powder, baking soda, washing soda, water of crystallization, all these things you have to study from chapter 2. From chapter 3 of chemistry, that is metals, non-metals and metallurgy, the topics that you have to prepare, physical properties of metals and non-metals, formation of ionic compounds, chemical properties of metals, specimen problems are given in the book, those problems also you have to go through, occurrence of metals, whatever is given in the textbook, and corrosion of metals. So these are the topics that you have to prepare from this chapter. From chapter 4 of chemistry, that is classification of elements, topics are necessity for classification of elements, early attempts for classification of elements, Mendeleev's periodic table, Mendeleev's periodic law, modern version of Mendeleev's periodic table of elements, defects or limitations in modern version of Mendeleev's periodic table of elements, modern periodic law, long form of periodic table, position of hydrogen in the periodic table, study of normal elements of the periodic table, characteristics of pairs in long form of periodic table, characteristics of groups in long form of periodic table, merits of long form of periodic table, defects of the long form of periodic table, advantages of the long form of the periodic table in learning chemistry, and some sample problems are there. So these are the topics that you have to prepare from this chapter 4, that is classification of elements. In the last chapter of chemistry, that is carbon compounds, the topics that are required are introduction, covalent bond, bonding in carbon and other nonmetals, versatile nature of element carbon, chemical properties of carbon compounds, important carbon compounds, ethanol and ethanoic acid, and you have to remember all the reactions, whatever reactions are given in the textbook, and you are to prepare soaps and detergents. So in chemistry, these are the topics that you have to prepare. Some of these topics were not there in 2021 board exam, but for 2022 board exam you are to prepare. Now in biology section, if you see the first part, that is life processes, the topics that you are to prepare: what are life processes, nutrition, autotrophic nutrition, heterotrophic nutrition, how do organisms obtain their nutrition, respiration, transportation in human beings, transportation in plants, excretion in human beings. So here almost full chapter you have to prepare. It was there last year also, and this year also you have to prepare the full chapter. There is no deduction. Now in the second chapter, control and coordination, here many things were not there in last year's syllabus, but this year the topics that you have to prepare are animals' nervous system, structure of neuron, how does an impulse travel in the body, types of nervous actions, what happens in reflex actions, human nervous system, how are these tissues protected, how does the nervous tissue cause action, coordination in plants, immediate response to stimulus, movement due to growth, plant hormones, hormones in animals, and endocrine glands in human. One table is there. This table you have to prepare, and many short questions used to come from that table. So these are the topics from control and coordination. In third chapter of biology, which is reproduction in plants and animals, here also these are the things that you have to prepare. Do organisms create exact copies of themselves? The importance of variations, mode of reproduction used by single organisms, fission, fragmentation, regeneration, budding, vegetative propagation, spore formation, sexual reproduction, why the sexual mode of reproduction, sexual reproduction in flowering plants, reproduction in human beings, male reproductive system, female reproductive system, what happens when egg is not fertilized, and reproductive health. So these are the topics for 2022. In last year's syllabus, reproduction in human beings, this part, male reproductive system, female reproductive system, it was not there, but this year you have to prepare this. And in the last chapter of science, or you can say even biology, that is heredity and evolution, the topics are accumulation of variation during reproduction, heredity, inherited traits, rules for the inheritance of traits, Mendel's contribution, how do these traits get expressed, evolution, acquired and inherited traits, speciation, evolution and classification, evolution by stages, evolution should not be equated with progress, and human evolution. So these are the topics from this chapter, that is heredity and evolution. So these are the topics that you are to prepare for this year's board exam. I hope syllabus is clear now. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.